Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never-ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing.
Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 593 of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. Good to be with you, as always. I hope that this finds you happy and healthy and being aware of every thought that's going through your head, which is usually a lot, because our thoughts really do play a big role in our happiness, which is why I like to talk about them so much. They affect almost everything we do, especially our relationships. Now, I heard this idea years ago that if you're happy with yourself, then your relationships thrive. Now, I know this to be true because I have lived it. But I also heard something that was unsettling at the time. And that's that this idea that if you're truly content with yourself, like mentally and physically and emotionally content, you could be happy with countless partners. It's a very empowering thought, but it can also make your relationship feel less unique. So I came across that idea. I think it was from Esther Hicks, maybe Tony Robbins. I don't remember, but I'm not sure who said it. But that if you're happy with yourself and you're healthy in your mind and body, you could be content with an infinite number of partners. You know, the universe is full of possibilities for connection. We know that. But when I first heard it, I was sitting there with my coffee. I remember thinking about my husband, Eric, and it really did kind of unsettle me, because if that's true, does it mean that what we have isn't special? That he could be just as fulfilled with someone else and so could I? So it felt like our connection was being reduced to something interchangeable, and I didn't like it, not one bit. So I spent a few days turning it over in my head, wondering why it bothered me so much. And the more I thought about it, though, the more I realized the point isn't about diminishing what you share with someone. It's about where you look when things feel off. So when a relationship isn't working, it's so easy to focus on what your partner's doing wrong, like their habits, their words, their effort. But this idea suggests that maybe you start with yourself. I mean, if you're not in a good place mentally or physically, no amount of external fixes will hold. The work begins inside. But inside is not the first place we like to look, is it? Usually we're looking for something outside to change to make us feel better. Now, I know this because I lived it. I have mentioned a few times that several years ago, before COVID, I kind of out of the blue and rather suddenly found myself very unhappy, which was not like me. Like, it was just out of the blue. My resting state has always been happy. I've always been easily happy. It's just been my go-to. I'm an optimist at heart. So this feeling of not being able to be happy was totally new for me. Now, I was already married to Eric, who's my husband now, and he's amazing, by the way, because he stood by me through all of that mess that I was in. And I remember at one point during that time that he was trying to cheer me up and trying to, kind of tell me, we've got all these things to look forward to. You've got lots of things to be happy about. And he mentioned to me, he's like, Christmas is coming. We have our Christmas party. Maybe go through your list and see who's coming and make you appreciate everything. And I was like, I remember specifically saying, I don't want to have a Christmas party this year. I don't like anybody that's coming. Now, if you know me, which if you listen regularly, you kind of do, but I love people, especially my people. And we have some of the most beautiful friends who are so supportive and so wonderful, and I love them so much. So when I said that about not liking anyone, that I knew something was bad wrong. I realized it immediately, and so did he. So we worked together, and I really asked for help in finding the answer to what was going on inside me. That's what I was looking for. What's going on inside me, because I was having a problem. Well, it turns out my hormones were a wreck and my nutrition at the time was not helping. And the interesting thing happened, though. When I fixed all of those inside me, I didn't need new friends. I didn't need a new husband. I didn't need things at all externally to change for me to be happy. In fact, it wouldn't have helped. It would have made things exponentially worse for sure if I'd have been trying to change things externally instead of fixing what was inside. I needed an internal reset, and in my case, hormone therapy. And once I got that, within about 7 days, literally, I was back to my happy self. And by the way, all of my friends, I loved them again. And my husband was back to being the best thing that ever happened to me in the world. Funny how that works, right? Nothing external was going to fix it. Now, I will say this, and this is kind of funny, but not funny. One little clue that told me that was possible, that it was something that I had actually been aware of, thank goodness. But all, like as a young woman, Eric and I have been together for 20 years, but we don't fight. We just really get along. But about once a month, you know what time I'm talking about. If you're a woman, you'll know what I mean. But about one time a month, that gives you a clue when you're younger what happens once a month as a woman. I noticed that all of a sudden Eric and I would argue over the dumbest things. And of course, I totally blame him, and I'm like, all of a sudden you're so mean. But as soon as that time of the month was over, he would be back to being my wonderful husband. We can really laugh about it now because obviously it was a pattern that happened when my hormones were doing what they do once a month as a young woman. It really helped me to be aware of that though, because when it happened as I got a little older, I was astute enough to know, I wonder, could this still be me? Could this still be I'm having a problem inside? Because I realized all those times that when it was that once a month thing was a big problem for us, it was me. And as it turned out, it was. Now, that doesn't mean it's always you. It means it's a good place to start so that you don't upend your life unnecessarily. So if your relationship feels strained, or if you're single and struggling to find connection, start by checking in with yourself. You can ask, how do I feel about me right now? Not your job, not your social life, just you. How do I feel in my body? How do I feel about my health, my mental health, my physical health? If you're not in a strong place, that's where the work begins. And here's what helped me. First, find a way to process your thoughts. Now, for me, that means being aware of them. I journaled for many years, which helped me get very clear about everything that was going on in my life. I mean, I would hash out things that were weighing on me. It was kind of like untangling a knot. And then also, second, take care of your body in a way that feels manageable. I mean, maybe it's just taking a short walk or drinking more water. These small things add up. And finally, look at your surroundings. If your space feels chaotic, get your house in order, even just one little area. It can ground you more than you think. If you do this and your relationship still doesn't feel right, then maybe it's not the right fit. That's where the infinite partners idea can be reassuring. It's not about being replaceable. It's about knowing you have options. You're not trapped. But you can't skip the step of getting right with yourself first. It's about starting there, looking inward before you change things outward. And it's not about fixing everything overnight either. It's about small steps towards clarity. The idea about infinite partners isn't about your relationship being less meaningful. It's about owning your own happiness first. When you're solid with your own self, you bring that strength to your connections. You choose each other, not out of need, but because it feels right. So if you're struggling, start small, write, maybe journal, move, breathe. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up for yourself, and you deserve that. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who might need it. I love you guys. I'll talk to you in a few days.
Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.